a friend of mine from the past, and Adnan Mirza here, and really good to have you here. And it's a podcast which is a bit unexpected. I mean, we asked for people to come up, and we can't tell them what you're talking about, which is but also refreshing in a way. And so we don't prepare anything. I mean, we just ask you in a moment what is going on in your life, what you like to talk about. We do kind of sensing mode, and then we agree on this topic and we talk about this. And usually within the previous episodes, there comes so much wisdom. It's our own wisdom, but also the collective wisdom. And so that's what we're doing. And welcome to this another show.
Great. Completely unexpected for me, believe it or not. I thought it might not be going through, given the link, the challenge with the link. Here we are. So you've got me completely in the moment.
Great.
That's good.
That's perfect.
Tell me a bit in your life, like what is going on, what you feel, what you sense currently, what is something which bugs you, which is uncomfortable, or something which you like to talk about with us?
Well, you find me in a good place. You find me in a place where I'm settling into being more than doing. So there's not much that's bugging me lately. What would I'm very curious.
Well, hold on. Let's stay with that. Adnan, because I'm thrilled by the fact that you've said that, because that's a great subject. Tell us what does being mean to you? Like when you say you're settling into being, how would you describe that?
Well, I would describe it more as a kind of abiding rather than performing. Being more in the moment.
And can you tell me a bit more about
what's brought that sense of stillness to you? What's happened?
Well, I've been working on this journey of, let's say, initially it started with performance psychology. I used to fly gliders at a competitive level. I used to fly in regional, national, and even in a number of world championships. Wow. And in that time, I had this real passion for aviation and the sky, and had these experiences of flow states along the way, completely unexpected at first. Like in one particular competition, I was flying with legends, people who I had heard about, read about, seen in films, and I was able to join as a guest and flew my heart out completely in the moment, just there to learn and absorb. And I ended up finishing in first place on the score sheet. And it's like, hey, what just happened here? How can different people with the same skills have different experiences? So they and perform differently. So I began to realize that how we perform doesn't have to do with our experience or capabilities. It's how we show up in the moment, or what our state is like. I mean, I understand it much more clearly now than back then. This was over 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that kind of started this journey of personal development, that kind of experience of rapture, like, wow, I didn't think I was this good. I thought I was this kind of pilot. And then there are these legends and national championships. And I didn't think I was, able to perform like this. So a bit more of a fixed mindset. And that, just led me on this journey of wanting to experience more of this. The question that eventually stayed with me was, if we can experience this in sport, can we experience this in work and in life? And that led me initially, down the road of sports psychology and performance psychology. Eventually, I ended up with this personal development tool which helped us experience our emotions. So in a group setting, like experience our emotions as they come up in our bodies. And then with the whole new world opened up for me, it's like, wow, there's a lot going on in our bodies. What's this? And is this what Eckhart Tolle talks about with pain body? So I started reading a few more spiritual books along the way, and then I began to wonder, hey, maybe this is where yoga takes us. And so slowly but surely, I got into yoga, and initially with the postures and more these different types of practices, and eventually really more deeply into the spiritual philosophies and Eastern texts. And so this is 20-year process of chipping away, and kind of dip in and out. But you found me in a dipping in to being moment.
Nice.
Anyways.
Beautiful.
Thanks so much. Can I just ask you, because you at the beginning you said more being than doing. How was the doing for you? Because you said this in this unconscious moment, more being than doing. So are you more in the doing part currently, or
no, I don't think so. Can be. I don't really know how to describe that. It's more like a letting. So when I'm in this place of being, then the doing is less effort and more kind of a letting and an allowing.
Yeah.
Of course, the world that I live in has its demands, or
you got to respond.
I can get carried away.
You have to respond to your everyday things that come up. I love the flow state, because it's a beautiful way of putting it. I can really relate to you as well, that the less I'm in the way, the more I'm listening and acting in terms of what's coming into my consciousness, rather than what I'm forming with my mind, then that feels like a flow state to me, which is, and I'm wondering whether there is a time, there seems to be a time right now where I'm meeting more and more people. I've never met you in my life. The first thing you do is you come on and you talk about a state of consciousness that I'm living. How magical is that? It's like, it's just such beautiful, no mistake. Of course, there are no, everything is a cosmic synchronicity. But I'm wondering whether you're finding in your world, you're experiencing this, whether you are manifesting others around you that are also experiencing this, because that certainly is my that's how it is for me at the moment.
So over these past several days, when I've been feeling more of this, there have been some connections here and there, or links, where people are in a similar place or sharing similar inspiration. Yeah, for sure. So the serendipity chart has been high lately.
Yeah. There seems to be this vibrational frequency thing that when I call it, I want to be in this flow state, and I don't want to get back into the fear state or that which is a doing state. And so I keep inviting people to come and join me here, rather than dropping back into the old paradigm, the old way. It's a really lovely invitation. It's like, I want to stay here because this is fun. Come and join me here.
Yeah, and probably you're finding people who are willing to be in the moment and have a sense of adventure and playfulness without an attachment to an outcome show up. So you're creating the conditions for people who are vibing with it to show up.
Absolutely. I wonder if it comes with age. I don't know how old you are, but I'm in my 50s, and I've definitely become more at ease with letting things flow. and it is much less stressful.
I think age, when we let ourselves age like a fine wine, if I
Yeah.
say so myself, is a very good thing. I mean, it's a privilege. Um, not afraid.
There's also something when you were talked about like what you've done, like sports psychology and performance psychology. I thought the performance for me is something I always had kind of my own issues with it, in terms of performance to can mean many things. Can be good, but it can also mean like you have to perform certain things. Like you have to be in a position which you don't want. And then what I see currently, what is all going on, breakdown of different things, chaos, rising fear, you name it, whatever, AI, all these things, and like another way where masculine leadership is coming up. What is then the state of flow means and the state of being, and how does that relate to performance? Is performance still is should we still work with performance, or do we need something different?
Yeah, it's super interesting that you say this. So, like, what led me to these states was initially the quest for performance. Yeah, so it's interesting. I think we discover ourselves through the world of doing and action and performance. I think performance is probably similar to persona. I don't know if it's a coincidence that the word starts with the same letter. So the way I used the term performance was like being something or showing up as something that we aren't in order to get something, to put it really simply. And then in the state of being, we're really connected and aligned with who we are and our values, and uh, can be a bit more in harmony with our environment. So more spontaneous right action, instead of anything that's planned or orchestrated. Yeah, so just on the word performance there, and then everything that we see, or what you're sharing about the world, and that's what you said, masculine or dominator style of leadership, and all these never-ending developments for increased efficiencies and productivity. Yeah, it's there. And I think it has to do with the states of mind we live in, at least in the society we're a part of. It's when we talk about business, it's all about maximize and exit. Yeah, and that's different from a philosophy of enough and exist. And that's a philosophy that we apply here at the company that I founded and have been a part of for the last 11 and a half years. It's really, about enough and exist. Yeah, so it's there. It's certainly what you're saying, Tess, dominates our way of living. Has it ever been different? I don't know. I mean, there's this book which I haven't, by the way, read completely, or just snippets of. It's called The Chalice and the Blade. It, I think it was written in the 80s, and it basically describes these two approaches to leadership, kind of the dominator style and the partnership style, otherwise sometimes referred to as masculine or feminine.
Feminine,
But
yeah.
it's very clear in calling it dominator versus partnership, and talks about how, kind of our societies or civilizations have been taken over by dominator type of approaches, more hunter-gatherer versus agrarian and harmonistic. And for thousands of years, this progression has happened where kind of magical and mystical and harmonious ways of living get taken over by the dominator approaches.
And I just hook to this for a moment. I mean, it's interesting what you say, the dominator perspective. I mean, even if you look at models like biodynamics, you know that we have different layers where we grow through. And at the moment, we see all different layers coming up again. So we see like the red, where it's like Trump or authoritarian systems, and then more integrative, more belonging to itself. And the fascinating thing is that we experience all these different states at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's not anymore, okay, we are more in a clean, accepting and marriage, but it's everything happens at the same time simultaneously, mm-hmm. which is the termination of the polycrisis. So the being and the doing and the authoritarian, it's all continues happen together, and that is challenging. Then actually the challenging mode for me is like, how can you stay in a being mode or stay in a, and yes, of course, it belongs to your own, to inner world, connectiveness, whatever that source might be for you. Mm. But still, it's an overwhelmingly chaotic state we are in.
Yeah, I think it's what Jarvis said. Community. I believe community is really important. I think.
I like the word community because it's kind of like come into unity.
Come into unity. Oh,
come into unity.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's really important for us to find our communities and maybe connect these communities. That's all. I have to think about this one verse in the Yoga Sutras. I think it's 1.33. I won't be able to say it in Sanskrit. The interpretation goes something like this. It's about relating. So it says, befriend the happy, have compassion for the sad, delight in the virtuous, and ignore the wicked. And this will help you find your peace. I mean, yoga is really about a state, our natural state, or the state of beingness, when we're not identified with the temporal and our essence. So this is a verse, which is, I think, when we can practice it, help us bring a lot of peace. So we try and change the wicked. Resist, and according to this age-old wisdom, that's not the way to go. If you want peace.
Is this a daily practice for you then? Are you practicing yoga on a daily basis?
Yeah, I like to stay connected to it. I do physical postures practice maybe 3 times a week.
Okay. Nice.
I like to read inspiring texts. And it's like community.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
What I don't do often enough is just sit by myself in nature or the park. We're in this lovely neighborhood in Utrecht, in the Netherlands, and I can use many more opportunities to just have some quiet time. That also, I mean, just as simple as that, just quiet time for myself, doing nothing. Is a way to settle into this.
Agreed. And you talked about you brought your company into it, which I'm fascinated by. And you talked about, I mean, I think many of us can relate to the dysfunctionality of business in the world, that how competitive it is, and how it's siloed and how there's no real community or co-creation. On the broadest sense, I know that's a sweeping statement, but on the broadest sense, and then you've got this undercurrent of, I guess, business leaders like you and I and lots of others that are trying to do business in a non-competitive way, in an inclusive way, in a caring way, in a purposeful way, in a, including nature and people, and so it's not just driven by profit in the money sense, but it's giving profit a purpose. Tell us a bit about the business, what you do, and what its function is in society.
All right. So before Heartbeat Ventures, it's called Heartbeat Ventures.
Nice.
Thanks. I was a management consultant, and I worked in the life sciences sector, so medtech, biotech, pharma, healthcare. Before that, I worked in the health tech sector, so I did strategy and strategic marketing, and mergers and acquisitions, strategic advisory for multinationals. And I came to the life sciences sector kind of as an outsider. So the last 6 years of my management consulting career, I was working in this sector. Before that, it was high tech and telecommunications. In parallel, in my personal life, I was learning about these flow states and what it takes to drop into these flow states, and also yoga and how lifestyle really affects our states, and kind of the same practices that help us drop into these peaceful states, like eating well, having a physical practice, and being around positive people, and being optimistic, are the same things that help with long-term health outcomes. And in the world of life sciences, we were helping companies make billions on suppressing the symptoms of preventable lifestyle-related disease. And the more aware of it I became, the harder it became for me to do the work. I mean, just physically, even like knots in my stomach arriving at the client's premises. So I took the leap and set up Heartbeat Ventures to work upstream and help people stay healthy or return them to full health when it comes to preventable lifestyle-related diseases, most of which are reversible. Yeah, like diabetes type 2, lots of heart conditions, lung conditions, some cancers, psychiatric conditions. I mean, the largest part of our disease burden is lifestyle related or living environment related. And we're doing practically nothing as a society to address this. Yes, for example, in the Netherlands, maybe there's 100 million or two that's spent in a dedicated way on this. It sounds like a lot, but in comparison, our healthcare system has a budget of 110 billion. That's a fraction of a percent. So a lot of disease is unnecessary, but it's complicated. Of course, there are these large industrial incentives that are all interconnected. There's the government as well, and regulators, which in some way, shape, or form allows it or even enables it. But there's also the population, which has, tended more and more over time towards a type of learned helplessness. Not really either knowing or consciously wanting to take responsibility for it. So it's pretty challenging to make a change, but it's worthwhile. So Heartbeat Ventures is set up to enable the daring to build a healthier world. And so basically what I learned as a strategic consultant, and many of my colleagues also have a design background and innovation background, we bring these experiences and capabilities together for primarily the public sector, but any organization wanting to challenge the status quo, to scale their health solutions, products, services, programs, behavior change communications. That's basically what we do. We've done some of our own financial ventures. So going back to the philosophy behind it, and I liked how you said profit as an enabler for impact. I think you use slightly different words, which really resonated.
Yeah, profit for purpose, same
Profit
thing.
for purpose, exactly. That's it, as a means, as kind of a lifeblood for the organization. And that's really how we're set up. And we want to exist. I think the biggest gift for us is to have a place where we can work wholeheartedly. Right? So we show up and without reservation can engage in our projects, knowing this is the best thing we know to do, given our own values and what the world needs. Now, whether or not we can make an impact or change the system, I don't know. It's very challenging, but we at least enable each other to do the best work of our lives and can enable those who are challenging the status quo to have a higher chance of making an impact. And we want to do this, thank you, in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
Right? So we have a 4-day work week. We clearly prioritize our health and our families first, and then commitments, project commitments, and project development and internal operations in that order. So the whole team knows how we prioritize. And can create space for each other. Yeah, it is very nice. And profit as a purpose. So I mean, we find that we make enough when we are on projects for 60% of our time, which is a lot lower than consulting industry benchmarks, which are 80% plus. But in the rest of the time, we can be creative. Like I said, we also invested some of our reserves in our own ventures. And we spend at least 5% of our company's time on volunteer work for a foundation and other projects which can't necessarily afford our work. That gives us a nice balance of sustainability and purpose and impact. So that's how we're existing.
Beautiful. That's great. That's really, I love hearing that. And thank you for sharing that. There's so many questions. I mean, the transition that you've gone from, an industrial, kind of medical complex, pharmaceutical industry. We know that industry is there to try and keep us sick so that we keep buying into the old, the old system. You've gone right through that and out the other end, which is absolutely fascinating. Thank you for taking the leap of faith to the new way, first of all.
Thank you for acknowledging. And, it just happened by chance. I think being an outsider helped.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't indoctrinated.
Yes.
Into, well, this is what we do because we have to do it. And if we don't, because lifestyle change is difficult and so on and so forth, and I don't know if you said the industry is there, for whatever purpose, but it's not necessarily conscious. Like I've worked with people and they're nice people.
Yeah. It's not like it's an evil empire.
They don't, there's a difference between kind of trust or being aware of things and maybe it's related a little bit to competence, right? So I think they're just not aware, and in that way I don't think they're completely competent to be looking after our health. I mean, healthcare is not health by any means. At least the word is used, but our healthcare system is not about health. It's about treating disease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It deals with the symptom and not with the cause. You know what? I'm gonna just let me ask one more question because I'm fascinated.
Sure. So go and then you go.
Yeah, just the last one. I promise I'll be quiet. So what you talked about there is, there's a multitude of things, but what I really honed in on, or what I heard you say, was that the masses are operating on a treadmill without really taking notice on what's around them. Yeah. So there's this kind of system that we're kind of born into, and then we're kind of educated into, and we're perhaps in some cases parented into, and then you get into your working thing, and you're kind of on this constant train, and then you've got to the point where you've been on it, and then suddenly you felt your body, and you're having inner reactions or a response to the system, and you've broken free from it, and then you've understood that there's this flow state, which is a beautiful state to be in. I mean, you're a living example of it. Look at you, you're glowing, you're healthy, you're smiley, you're happy, you're peaceful. It's a beautiful state to be in. And I think what I'm really drawn to is that, what does it take for people to wake up? You've expressed, you got into this flow state through performing and flying, and suddenly realized you were as good as the best of them out there because you were able to just allow yourself to be. And what is it that's gonna, I think it's our purpose, certainly feels like mine, is to try and awaken or help others to reach that state of consciousness. And you're doing that with your business, which is fantastic. So firstly, just to acknowledge the Gandhian phrase, you are literally being the change you want to see in the world. Fantastic. But how do you, not me, but how do you then find peace in the fact that you are doing the best that you can from your state of consciousness, trying to help people? And I think it's just an elaboration of what Tess said. What about all those people out there that are not, like, how do you deal with that?
Compassion, and what I mean by that is just accept their suffering. I don't know what else there is to do.
Yeah. No, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. This is for people to listen to and trying to find something to hook their own, their own kind of journey onto. So that's why you're here. You're the wisdom that we want to draw out and share with others. So thank you.
I just thought maybe let's just hook to your question, Jarvis, because my question was kind of similar. So before you talked about the being is needed to connect to the community. At the same time, like Jarvis was also sketching up, we are in a hyper-individualistic society. Everyone is its own connection. And then, like you said, we know many people who are currently waking up, and that waking up is difficult. It needs, it's connected to your own insecurity and the fear what comes after that. I mean, waking up and accepting that I'm in discomfort is good, but what comes next is also you're still in that world. So I think it's we often talk about this kind of, the overstretched analogy of islands of sanity, or we need to become more in community with others who are already in this. So, but for me, that's really the big question, which I don't have any kind of immediate solution for. Compassion is so important, but I think sometimes we need better systems for people waking up, and then it comes back to healthcare. So systems of people waking up from different systems of taking care for them or where they have been in. And I don't know, that's a question to you maybe, or are there systems in place, or are there future models how systems could look like? Get taken care of from actually waking up from a state of being more of doing. And how would this ideally look like? I mean, we can dream a bit. I mean, we can also ideating ways how this should work in the next 10 years.
Yeah. Great question.
It is. I love it. I think, I can't wait to hear your answer.
All right. Let me take a sip of this now cold tea. So, like in this this way of living, where we have people kind of binding or coming together based on common myths, like Yuval Hariri spoke about, like money. He also called that a myth, and nationhood, and all of these things that we take up as our own beliefs and bond together based on those. I don't know if we can maintain that and have people that are, really connecting with their natural selves and with each other at the same time. Like, I don't think the two go together. That's why this concept of communities is really important. Like beforehand, I think it was 50 to 150 people in tribes that would bond together based on how well they knew each other, and there were elders, and wisdom was passed down, and like believing in common myths is not being conscious. So I don't know if we can make huge systems that lead to more consciousness or collective system change. I hope something's getting through.
Yeah, I mean, I connect to this again. So I think that shifts probably where we are right now is definitely connected to feeling, to that compassion is, and it's a deep emotion. So maybe we are in a time where we really need to come back to deep feeling and to actually feel what's going on and feel our own incompetency, but also our own strength in this. So and through feeling we get compassion, and through that we also move into new states. So I think we, like I said, we don't have a set up future string where we move forward, but in this moment right now, it's so much about compassion, about deep feeling, and then all the emotions.
It's so beautiful. I think you've answered your question better than I can. And basically, I don't think we can do it from kind of collective beliefs. It's from a dropping of those beliefs and connecting with the present moment and our emotions. The emotions guide us towards our right livelihood, or what our unique gifts and values are, and how we can share them with our surroundings. So nourish and be nourished at the same time. So this emotions are basically what led me to the body and yoga. I think I mentioned it briefly at the start. Emotions are the way. I wrote a book actually on this journey from the corporate world. I started my career in New York City at Solomon Brothers in the 90s, an investment bank. And then eventually 18 years later, or I think closer to 20 years later, I set up Heartbeat Ventures. So this journey from the corporate world to a social enterprise was a blend of entrepreneurship, business, high performance, and spirituality. And what really was the breakthrough was this technique that helped me feel my emotions as they came up in my body. And they have been the biggest guide and continue to be to this day. Yeah, so spot on. Like when I was giving a fairly philosophical answer, but when you cut to the chase, when we can all learn to be friends with our emotions.
What's fascinating about that as well is that it's certainly nearly everybody I speak to that has in some way stepped away from an old way of being into something that brings them more happiness, there is always a sacred a practice involved, whether it's kriya, meditation, yoga, tai chi, going out in nature, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And nearly, I can't think of one person I know that I would describe as, really happy in the holistic sense of happiness that hasn't got a practice.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating, isn't it?
It is. And when you think about it, these practices have been around for thousands of years.
Exactly.
So has the
Exactly.
world ever really been any different? I mean, we've had much bloodier periods in our
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
So sometimes I wonder, hey, this is the way the world is. I mean, the ancient texts talk about these ages, these yugas or
Yeah.
epochs.
Yeah.
And they're saying we live in the dark ages.
In the Kali age.
Kali Yuga. And
Yeah.
then, like the cycle is, I don't know, 526,000 years long.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's based on some cosmic astrological cycles. And then, eventually you come out of it and you might move into the age of truth, the Satya Yuga,
Yeah.
where we are on all four legs of dharma or
Yeah.
right livelihood, and we're living our truths, and they're beautifully described.
Yeah.
And then it starts declining to 3 legs and 2 legs, and then eventually
Yeah.
the dark ages where we're completely disconnected and the leaders are selfish and only out for personal gain. And so
well, there is, I mean, even talking about that in many of the ancient wisdom kept scriptures, whether it's the I don't know, the Sanskrit, the Bhagavad Gita, or the Zohar, or even the Bible. And you look at all of these written texts, they all talk about an era emerging into a new era. Even the Mayan calendars, I mean, it goes on and on and on. I often talk about this because the Bible seems to be the most popular. I'm actually part Indian, so I really connect with the Eastern philosophies. Yeah. So, but if you look at the Bible, even the Bible talks about, bringing heaven on earth. Like, yes, you can think of it as you die and you go to heaven, or you could think about it as you become enlightened and therefore heaven comes to you, right? Which seems to be much more fun. Otherwise, we're going to have to die. If you believe what I do, you die and you'll come back again and have another go. And it's like, might as well try and do it in this one.
Yeah.
But even the Bible talks about this opportunity of bringing heaven to earth, or having heaven on earth. And it seems like if we can get out of the way, which is how we started this conversation, being in flow state. So you're kind of, your kind of I is kind of dissolving into the we, and therefore you become part of connected with everything. That to me is kind of a flow state. But if we can get out of the way as a species, it strikes me that the wisdom keeper of our earth, you might want to say Mother Nature or Gaia, or consciousness, whatever you want to call it, whatever that human experience is, it seems to know more than we do.
Oh yeah.
if we can get out of the way, right?
Without a doubt. And that the we being this kind of thinking, analytical, control-centric mind. Yeah.
It's getting us into mess.
Complete mess. We can talk about this for hours. But I wonder, Tess, did you get any semblance of an answer to your question?
No, definitely. I mean, also when Jarvis talked about the Bible, I mean, for me, like a believer of God, and I mean, I think there are so much similarities. Like if Richard Rohr coined the term of cosmic Christ, that basically we need to let go of our ego, and then Christ moves into us, and so more and more we letting go of our own ego state. So I think, like you said, there's so much ways how we can connect to source, or to that inner connectiveness. And I think it's more and more important that we find out how we can work it out within our own locality, you know. How are we leading with the land we have here, and the problems we have here in the Netherlands or UK? And but like I said, we have gone a long way from, in this episode, from being and doing to performance to flow, and coming down, like many episodes before, in that moment where we are belonging. And nice. that I love that. So in the end, we always come down to similarities.
Yeah, it's really nice. And you also ask, can we create these collective systems to help others? I think we do it when we are our natural selves, like you are. There's something that inspired you to do this podcast, and what we do at Heartbeat Ventures. Yeah, it's small scale, kind of islands of coherence, and it's not always hunky-dory, as they say. These type of states come and go, and I think that's also very natural. But we do our best, and maybe it helps us connect with others who are doing the same, and then we're stronger, and kind of a wave emerges and it rises, and then at some stage, it reverses, just like waves do. I feel like this is the best we can do. I don't think we can change anyone who doesn't want to. Can just be an example, and maybe it's interesting or inspiring, or everything in their own due time. Can't make a blade of grass go faster by pulling it.
No, that's right. Just break it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, thanks so much, Adnan, for being here with us today, and
thank you for
that, and
inviting me.
Definitely, and let's keep connected. And
it would be very nice.
And soon this episode will be online, also YouTube or Spotify, to listen back. And thanks so much for being here, and in this unexpected, not knowing what you talk about. In the end, we talked about so much.
Yeah, thank you for making it happen, and look forward to keeping in touch.
Yeah, it was super rich. Thank you very, very much. Real pleasure to meet you. I run a radio show on UK Health Radio. I'd love to have you as a guest on the radio show, because I think certainly with Heartbeat Ventures and everything that you're doing there, it would be really inspiring for others. So this is just the beginning. Thank you, Tess, for bringing us together.
Wonderful.
Another awesome being. I tell you what, Tess knows the most incredible people. So I'm truly blessed to be a part of this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Keep in touch. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.